Hey everyone, good to be back with you for another daily devotional as we continue our walk through the book of Genesis. Today, we're in Genesis chapter 8, verses 15 through 19. Now, I'm going to start a couple verses before, and you'll see why in a second, but I do want to read our verses for today. So starting in verse 13, it says, "In the 601st year, in the first month, the first day of the month, the waters were dried from the earth, from off of the earth. And Noah removed the covering of the ark and looked, and behold, the face of the ground was dry. In the second month, on the 27th day of the month, the earth had dried out. Then God said to Noah, go out from the ark, you and your wife, and your sons wives with you. Bring out with you every living thing that is with you of all flesh, birds and animals and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth, that they may swarm on the earth and be fruitful and multiply on the earth. So Noah went out, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him. Every beast, every creeping thing, and every bird, everything that moves on the earth went out by families from the ark." So there's a couple things going on here, but just like we see Noah, he entered the ark from a place of obedience. And we talked about this in the last devotional. It was 55 to maybe 120 years of that obedience creating the ark. His exit was no different. And this is why we went back to verse 13. In verse 13, it says, "In the first month, and the first day, the waters were dried off the earth." But in verse 14, it says, "It wasn't until the second month, on the 27th day, that the Lord told Noah to come out." So just like Noah, in obedience, walked into the ark and built and then walked into the ark, again, we see his obedience waiting for the Lord to give him word to move off. And then in verses 18 and 19, we're seeing that this is the only time the animals were said to move by groups. Now, there's really, in all honesty, not a lot we're going to pull out in just teaching. It's pretty simple what we're looking at. But the one thing I want to focus on today is the obedience of Noah. And to focus on how I want to frame this, we're going to go to 2 Timothy 2, verses 20 through 22. And I'm just going to read this real quick because it's going to set up for what I'm going to be talking about with Noah. And it says, "Now in a great house, there are not only vessels of gold and silver, but also of wood and clay, some for honorable use, some for dishonorable use. Therefore, if anyone cleanses himself from what is dishonorable, he will be a vessel for honorable use, set apart as holy, useful to the master of the house, ready for every good work. So flee youthful passions and pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace, along with those who call on the Lord from a pure heart." So this is one of the things that we see with Noah. God chose to use him in a mighty way to glorify his name, but also that his judgment was to be carried out through Noah's obedience to build the ark to ensure that there was a remnant. But we see that Noah, even in the beginning, like we talked about last week, he was a herald of righteousness. And this is what we're seeing in 2 Timothy 2, when it talks about vessels of gold and silver and some of wood and clay. Some were for honorable use, some were for dishonorable use. But if you cleanse yourself, if anyone cleanses himself from what is dishonorable, he will be a vessel for honorable use, set apart as holy, useful to the master of the house. My point is, the Lord uses holy people for his purpose. And that's exactly what we're seeing from Noah here. And to remind us, we're not talking perfection. Noah wasn't perfect. We're going to see in chapter 9 where he actually falls into drunkenness. He wasn't perfect, but he was righteous. He walked in faith because he was an honorable vessel to be used by the master. And so that's just kind of the question that I want to leave with you guys today. I want to ask you, are you walking in such a way where you could say, I know that I'm not perfect, but I have been cleansed by the blood of Christ, that I am now that vessel that is to be used for honorable use, useful to the master of the house, ready for every good work? Obedience is so important, not because it curries favor with God. Not at all, quite the opposite. It's because it's the fruit of our lives when it's been transformed by God. When he transforms us, he creates in us a heart that wants to be obedient. It's not perfect, but there is righteousness, there is faith, there is obedience. And so how would you answer that question today? And I'll leave you with a quick quote. I think it's from Sinclair Ferguson. I heard a pastor use this, and he says, be obedient even when you do not know where that obedience may lead you. I think it's just another way of saying the safest place is to be in the will of God. It doesn't matter where you are, but if you are in the will of God, walking faithfully, you know you are in the safest place possible. All right, guys. God bless you. Have a wonderful day. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next week.